Let's dive into the 4-hour work week, huh? I know you're probably thinking, escape the daily grind, live life on my terms. Well, today we'll see if Tim Ferriss has got some answers for you.
Yeah, it sounds pretty ambitious, right? But even if a 4-hour work week isn't really your ultimate goal, I think there's a lot we can all learn from the way Ferriss thinks about, work, life, the whole thing.
So before we get into, the nitty-gritty of his strategies and all that, let's talk about Ferriss himself.
Yeah.
This guy, his bio, it's like straight out of a movie. World record holder in Tango, national kickboxing champion, and get this, an actor in Hong Kong TV series. Not exactly your, typical self-help guru, huh?
Yeah, right. It definitely makes you wonder. You get the sense that this is someone who really thrives on pushing boundaries. He's all about achieving things most people wouldn't even dream of, consider impossible. He even talks about surviving a premature birth, so he had a slim chance of survival. Talk about overcoming obstacles.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's like he's wired to defy expectations.
Yeah.
So how does this all connect to his whole philosophy, on work,
Yeah.
on life?
Well, he has this idea he calls the new rich. And it's not really about, just piles of money. It's about having the freedom to choose how you spend your time, your energy. It's about options. He contrasts this with what he calls deferrers, the people stuck in that, the endless cycle of working, working, working for some future that honestly might never even come.
It's funny. It's like spending all your time meticulously planning this dream vacation and finally getting there, but you're just completely burned out.
Yeah.
You can't even enjoy it.
Exactly. Ferriss's whole point is that true wealth, it isn't about escaping from life. It's about designing a life you don't need to escape from. A life where work, it energizes you, it doesn't drain you.
Okay, I'm totally on board with that idea.
Yeah.
But how do we actually get there? Does he give us a step-by-step? How do we reach this new rich lifestyle?
He does. He calls it the DEAL framework. It stands for definition, elimination, automation, and liberation.
Deal. All right. Catchy. So break it down for me. What's involved in each step?
So first up, definition. This is about getting really crystal clear about what your ideal lifestyle actually looks like. What are your passions, your values, those non-negotiables? Ferriss, he talks about envisioning your dream lines, those aspirations that just light you up inside.
So it's not just working less. It's about working towards something you really, truly care about. Okay, what's next?
Okay, so then we have elimination. Now this can be tough. It's about ruthlessly cutting out the unnecessary, tasks, time wasters, all of it. Especially for people who, maybe struggle with saying no.
Oh, tell me about it. I'm a recovering people pleaser myself. But I see how it's crucial, right? You need to create the space for what truly matters.
You got it. Every time you say no to something that's not important, you're saying yes to something that actually aligns with your goals. All right, so after elimination comes automation. This is about finding ways to, systematize things, outsource tasks, minimize your direct involvement.
Okay, so picture this, right? Virtual assistants, they're handling your emails, scheduling those meetings, maybe even running your social media. Sounds good, right?
Exactly. It's all about, using technology, other resources, all to free up your time, your mental energy. And finally, we arrive at liberation. This is the part where you break free from that traditional 9 to 5 grind. It's about embracing a more flexible way of working and, living.
Okay, now we're talking. This is where it gets interesting. But I'm curious, how does he actually live out these deal principles himself? Does he, walk the walk?
Well, he talks a lot about confronting your fears, head on. He does this through a process he calls fear setting.
Fear setting.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds kind of, intense. Is it like staring down your anxieties until they just, back down?
Not exactly. It's more about, I'd say, understanding, dismantling the fears that hold you back. He even shares a story about having a full-blown nervous breakdown before a trip, which honestly is pretty reassuring. Even the people who, preach this unconventional life, they experience fear too.
Yeah, that definitely makes him, more relatable. Makes you realize he's not immune to those anxieties. So we've got the deal framework, fear setting. What else does he recommend for maximizing our time, our energy?
Well, he's a big advocate for something he calls a low information diet. It's about, intentionally limiting your exposure to the news, to that constant stream of information overload.
So he's suggesting we tune out the news. That might be a tough sell for some people, especially these days, with everyone so connected.
Oh, he takes it pretty far. He rarely checks the news, sometimes even business emails. His point is that, when you're drowning in information, it can lead to this, analysis paralysis, heightened anxiety. He thinks you should focus on the information that's actionable, the stuff directly related to your
Well, I get
goals.
that. It's about being more selective with what you consume rather than just passively absorbing everything that comes your way.
Exactly. It's about taking back control over your mental space, focusing on the inputs that, empower you, not overwhelm you.
This is great stuff. But what if you're stuck in a traditional job, the whole 9 to 5? How does the 4-hour work week, how does it apply then?
Well, he actually dedicates a whole section to negotiating remote work arrangements, even in like seemingly inflexible corporate environments.
Yeah, that's something a lot of people are dealing with right now, especially with remote work becoming more and more common.
Exactly. And he suggests some really interesting tactics, like, really showcasing your productivity, maybe proposing a trial period of remote work, even framing it as a win-win, for both you and your employer.
So basically showing your value, making a strong case for why remote work benefits everyone involved.
Yeah.
Okay, what else can we learn from Ferriss's playbook?
Okay, so this is a bit of a controversial one. He talks about this concept of outsourcing, personal and professional tasks to virtual assistants.
Well, wait, outsourcing your life. Tell me more. I'm picturing like someone managing my calendar, booking my trips, maybe even taking care of those like annoying errands.
Oh, it goes even further than that. He even tells this funny story about his assistant being, too nice when handling email requests, which, it's these little details that make it feel, less scary, more human.
I love those little anecdotes.
Yeah.
They make it real. But okay, seriously, what kinds of tasks can you realistically outsource?
Well, anything really that doesn't require your specific skills or knowledge, things like scheduling appointments, managing emails, researching travel, even finding good restaurants. The point is to delegate the non-essential stuff so you can, focus on your strengths.
Wow, I'm starting to see the possibilities here. It's like having a whole team behind you, freeing up all this time and energy.
Precisely. It's about designing a life where you're the architect. You're not just another, worker bee.
Okay, so we're reclaiming all this time.
Mm.
What about vacations? Does Ferriss even believe in taking breaks?
He does, but his approach is a little different. He calls them mini retirements. It's about living in a new place for an extended period, not just, rushing through a typical vacation.
Mini retirement sounds, I don't know, luxurious and intimidating at the same time.
And get this, he actually argues that they can be more affordable than traditional vacations. Because, living costs in other countries, they're often much lower. It's about really experiencing a new culture, a new way of life, not just, hitting the tourist traps.
Okay, you've got my attention now. I'm always up for saving money and new experiences. Tell me more about these mini retirements.
Well, he shares examples from his own travels. Some are budget friendly, others, well, let's just say they're a bit more extravagant. But the point is to push yourself out of your comfort zone, to gain a fresh perspective, maybe even discover some hidden passions along the way.
Yeah, I can already picture it. Exploring ancient ruins, learning a new language, trying all the local food.
Exactly. Mini retirements, they offer a level of depth of personal growth that you just don't get from, regular vacations. It's about really immersing yourself in a new environment, coming back, refreshed, recharged.
This is amazing stuff. But how do we actually fund these mini retirements and the rest of this new liberated life?
Ah, that brings us to his concept of muses. These are automated businesses designed to generate income, but the key is with minimal time investment.
Muses. Sounds kind of mythical,
Yeah.
like having a magical source of passive income. So what's the catch?
Well, he actually lays out specific criteria for a successful muse. It has to be testable with, minimal investment. It should be automatable within weeks, and ideally manageable in about a day per week. The whole goal is to create a sustainable income stream, something that supports your lifestyle, but without, taking over your life.
So it's not about creating another like soul-crushing job,
Right.
right? It's about a system that works for you, that lets you pursue your passions, live life on your own terms.
Exactly. It's about aligning your work with your values, creating a business that serves your life, not the other way around.
This is all incredibly fascinating, but I have to admit it's like a lot to process. Where do you even begin to apply all this?
You know what? That's a great question. And that's exactly where we'll pick up in part 2 of our deep dive. We'll explore some practical strategies, some tools from the 4-hour work week that you can start, using today.
Can't wait. So listeners, make sure you tune in for part 2 where we get down to the nitty-gritty, turning these inspiring concepts into actionable steps. See you soon.
All right, welcome back to our little exploration of the 4-hour work week, huh? Ready to get a little more practical?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm really eager to learn how we can actually, like, put these concepts into action in the real world, you know? Where should we start?
Well, let's revisit those muses, those automated businesses that Ferriss talks about. The key to achieving that financial freedom, right?
Yeah, those money-making systems, they sounded pretty intriguing. But how do we actually go from, like, a vague idea to an actual business plan? Is there some, like, secret formula to creating a successful muse?
Well, Ferriss really stresses the importance of testing your assumptions, before you just jump in headfirst. Start small. Validate your ideas. That's key.
So no quitting your job and pouring all your savings into some, untested concept?
He actually suggests a testing phase, like create a basic website, run some targeted ads just to see if there's any interest.
That's like, dipping your toes in the entrepreneurial waters before you, like, take the full plunge.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be expensive or, super complicated.
Didn't he mention using platforms like eBay to, like, experiment with product ideas?
He did, yeah. You could even run a simple Google AdWords campaign, see if people are actually searching for what you're offering.
That's a great idea. So it's all about getting that real-world feedback before you invest, a ton of time and resources. Smart.
He also talks a lot about finding a niche market, a specific group of people with a very particular need or problem that you can solve.
Ah, the power of specialization, right?
Yeah.
Instead of trying to be everything to everyone, you become, like, the go-to expert for a select group.
Exactly. That way you can target your marketing more effectively. And a lot of times you can even, charge a premium for your product or service.
Premium pricing, now you're talking.
Yeah.
But how do we actually convince people to pay a premium, especially when you're just starting out?
Well, Ferriss emphasizes the importance of establishing credibility, even as a newcomer.
Right, because people want to buy from someone who seems, knowledgeable, trustworthy, not just some random amateur.
And he outlines this really clever strategy for building credibility quickly, leveraging media appearances, expert endorsements, things like that.
Interesting. So it's not just about having, like, a fancy website or a long list of qualifications.
It's about positioning yourself as an authority, Then getting quoted in articles, being interviewed on podcasts, even writing guest posts for industry blogs.
So basically getting your name and your message out there strategically to build that trust, that authority.
Exactly. And these days, with all the online platforms and tools, it's actually easier than ever to connect with, journalists, podcasters, influencers.
Yeah, that's true. I'm already brainstorming some ideas.
Yeah.
But what about those of us who aren't, like, natural self-promoters,
Mm.
Reaching out to media outlets, it can feel a little intimidating.
Well, the good news is Ferriss actually provides templates, scripts, for reaching out to potential collaborators, for securing media coverage. It's about being strategic, persistent, not necessarily the loudest voice in the room.
Okay, I'm feeling empowered. But let's say you've got your product idea, you've validated it, you're ready to start selling. What's the next step?
Ferriss is a huge, huge advocate for automation and outsourcing. He really encourages people to create systems that, run smoothly without your constant involvement.
Ah, the beauty of passive income. But setting up all those automated systems, it sounds a little daunting, to be honest. Where do you even begin?
Well, he breaks it down into manageable steps. He says, start by outsourcing those simple tasks like customer service, order fulfillment, things like that.
So, like, hire virtual assistants to handle the day-to-day stuff while you focus on the big picture.
Precisely. And there are tons of online platforms out there that connect you with, skilled virtual assistants all over the world.
Wow, it's like having a global team working for you. But what about, like, managing all those remote workers, making sure everything's running smoothly?
Ferriss gives you some really detailed guidelines for communicating effectively with virtual assistants, setting clear expectations.
So it's not just about, barking orders from afar. It's about building rapport with your team, empowering them to make decisions.
Exactly. It's about fostering that culture of, trust, accountability, even in a remote work environment.
This is great stuff.
Uh,
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit now. Let's talk about those mini retirements, those extended breaks Ferriss talks about as an alternative to, like, traditional vacations.
yes. It's about, experiencing life at a different pace, not just escaping from work for a week or two.
It's about immersing yourself in a new culture, expanding your horizons, maybe even, like, rediscovering yourself along the way.
Precisely. And one of the best things is Ferriss says mini retirements, they don't have to break the bank.
Yeah, he mentioned that living costs in a lot of countries are significantly lower than, here in the U.S.
Exactly. With a little careful planning, some flexibility, you can stretch your budget a lot further than you might think.
But let's be real for a second. There are practical considerations, right? Visas, housing, communication. How do we, navigate all that?
Don't worry, Ferriss has got you covered. He provides tons of resources, tips for planning your mini retirement, everything from, you know, finding affordable accommodation to staying connected while you're abroad.
He even mentioned using technology to, like, maintain a virtual presence back home so you don't completely disappear off the grid, right?
Right. It's about finding that balance between disconnecting from the daily grind and, staying connected to what
I
matters.
can just imagine, exploring bustling markets, learning a new language, really soaking up the local culture.
Exactly. And mini retirements, they give you the opportunity to pursue passions, interests that maybe don't fit into your normal life?
Like, imagine learning to tango in Argentina, or studying martial arts in China, or mastering Italian cooking.
See, the possibilities are endless. It's about getting outside your comfort zone,
Hmm.
embracing the unknown.
Okay, this is all incredibly exciting, but I have to admit, the idea of, like, uprooting my life for months, it's a little daunting. What does Ferriss say about, overcoming those fears?
Well, he suggests starting with shorter trips, maybe a month or two, just to get a feel for living in a new place.
So, like a trial run for the full-blown mini retirement.
Exactly. And he really emphasizes planning, preparation, to minimize the stress and maximize the enjoyment.
Makes sense because no one wants to spend their mini retirement dealing with, like, logistical
He
nightmares.
provides checklists, templates, for everything, from packing light to managing your finances while you're abroad.
Wow, this guy really has thought of everything. He's a master of systematization, that's for sure.
He really is. But he also stresses the importance of being flexible, adaptable, because, unexpected challenges, they're bound to pop up.
Right, because life rarely goes according to plan, especially when you're venturing into, uncharted territory.
Exactly. It's about embracing the adventure, being open to those new experiences.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired. But let's face it, not everyone can or wants to take, months-long breaks from their lives. How can we apply these principles of freedom, flexibility to, like, our everyday routines?
You know what? That's a fantastic question, and that's exactly what we're going to dive into in part 3 of our deep dive. We'll explore some really practical strategies for, optimizing your time, your energy, your productivity, even if you're not planning a mini retirement anytime soon.
Awesome. I can't wait. But before we wrap up this part, could you maybe give us a quick recap of what we've covered so far?
Absolutely. So we really dug into the practical steps for launching a muse, those automated businesses that are all about freedom and flexibility.
And we explored that exciting world of mini retirements, those extended breaks where you can truly immerse yourself in a new culture, a new way of life.
We talked about strategies for building credibility, automating those processes, managing remote teams.
And we touched on how important it is to plan, to prepare, and to be adaptable,
Yeah.
especially when you're embarking on these unconventional adventures.
Excellent summary. All right, listeners, stay tuned for part 3, where we'll explore how to inject these principles of freedom and flexibility into your everyday life. See you soon.
Welcome back for the final part of our deep dive into the 4-Hour Workweek. It's funny, I'm realizing it's not just about jetting off to some exotic locale. I'm really curious about these principles, freedom, flexibility. How can we integrate that into everyday life, even if we're not, ready for those mini retirements just yet?
You're right on the money there. Ferriss actually makes that point. The book, it's not just about escaping the corporate world. It's really about reclaiming your time and energy, but across all aspects of life. He suggests that you can actually have a 4-hour anything, relationships, hobbies, even, he says, those dreaded household chores.
A 4-hour anything, huh? It's a really interesting concept. But how do you, hack those areas of your life? How does that actually work?
Well, remember that low information diet we were talking about? It's not just about cutting back on the news. It's about being more conscious about what you let into your mind, into your life in general.
So, like, unfollowing those social media accounts that just, make you feel bad. Unsubscribing from all those email newsletters that pile up unread. Maybe even taking a break from, just constantly watching TV.
Exactly. It's about creating a more intentional experience, a more fulfilling one. And think back to what we said about automation and delegation. Yeah, we talked about how it frees up time in the work context. But those principles, they can apply to your personal life too.
Okay, so instead of spending your entire weekend, tackling that endless to-do list of chores, maybe you hire a cleaning service or use a meal delivery service.
Right. Think about all that time and energy you'd get back. And what about relationships? Think about those principles in that context. Could we use them to cultivate, I don't know, deeper connections with the people we love?
It's funny, Ferriss. He doesn't really explicitly give relationship advice,
Yeah.
but I can see how his ideas, they could definitely apply here. Like, what if we set aside dedicated time for, those really meaningful conversations? Just like we would schedule, like, an important business meeting.
I like that. It's about being proactive, intentional with your relationships, not letting them just get squeezed out by all the busyness of life. Remember, designing a lifestyle that aligns with what you value, with your priorities, that's essential. And that goes for all areas of your life, not just your work.
So it's about, like, first getting clear on what really matters to you,
Yeah.
and then, actually structuring your life around that.
Exactly. It's about creating a life that feels authentic, fulfilling, not just going through the motions. And look, I know it can feel a little overwhelming at first, but like Ferris always reminds us, start small, focus on one or two areas at a time.
So no need to, like, revolutionize our entire lives overnight. We can kind of ease into this.
Absolutely. It's all about making those gradual, sustainable changes, the kind that lead to lasting transformation. And remember what he said about testing your assumptions before diving headfirst into something big. That applies here too.
Right. So it's all about gathering information, experimenting, adjusting as you go along,
Hmm.
embracing the journey, being adaptable, right?
You got it. Well, as we wrap up our little exploration of the 4 hour work week here, I thought it might be helpful to distill the key takeaways, maybe create like a concise 10-point summary for our listeners.
Yeah, that's a great idea. It'll be a handy little resource for folks who want to, actually implement these concepts.
Right, so here we go. 10 key takeaways from the 4 hour work week. Number one, define your ideal lifestyle. Really figure out what excites you, what are your dream lines, what really truly matters. Number two, eliminate all those unnecessary tasks, those distractions. Focus your energy on the stuff that counts. Number three, automate or delegate tasks that others can do. Free up your time and energy. Leverage that technology, use outsourcing. Number four, liberate yourself from that traditional 9 to 5. Embrace remote work, those flexible schedules. Get control over your time. Number five, test your assumptions before making any big decisions. Start small, gather information, experiment, adapt as you go. Number six, find your niche market. Establish yourself as the expert. Specialize. Stand out from the crowd and charge those premium prices. Number seven, build your credibility. Use media appearances, expert endorsements, position yourself as that authority. Gain trust and attract clients and customers. Number eight, embrace those mini retirements. Experience life at a different pace. Immerse yourself in a new culture, get a fresh perspective. Number nine, create those automated businesses, those muses that we talked about. Generate that passive income, fund the lifestyle you want. And finally, number 10, apply these principles to all areas of your life. Reclaim your time, your energy, not just in your work, but in your relationships, your hobbies, those everyday activities.
That's a fantastic summary. You really captured, the essence of Ferriss's philosophy. And it provides some really practical steps,
Yeah.
for anyone who wants to design a life that's more, well, more fulfilling, more meaningful.
And remember, the power to create a life you love, it really is within your grasp. It all starts with taking that first step.
Yeah.
Applying these principles to those areas where you're craving more freedom, more fulfillment.
So true. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the 4 hour work week. We hope you found this, thought-provoking, inspiring. Maybe it's even given you some ideas about how to, rethink your relationship with work, with life, with everything, really.
Yeah, and hopefully you're feeling empowered to take control of your time, your energy. Design a life that truly reflects what matters to you.
Remember, everyone, it's not about working less. It's about living more intentionally. Until next time, keep exploring, keep experimenting, keep designing that life that, truly aligns with your values, with your aspirations.